Hello, my name is Caroline Shoenberger, and I want to welcome you to Advocates for Change, brought to you through the Shoenberger Public Interest Law Foundation. And I'm very excited that we have with us today Hernan Prieto from Irish Community Services. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Caroline, for the invitation.
And thank you so much for coming. So we're going to talk with Hernan about Irish Community Services, but first I'm going to talk a bit about Advocates for Change. So again, welcome to Advocates for Change, a show that shines a spotlight on individuals and movements making a real impact, not just in our community, but sometimes in the world. I'm Caroline Shoenberger, your host, and I'm here to guide you on this empowering journey. The mission of the show is to inspire change, to share stories that resonate with the heart, stories of courage, resilience, and innovation. Advocates for Change is not just a television show. It's a platform for voices that need to be heard, for ideas that need to be explored, and for actions that demand our attention. I am the executive director, as I mentioned, of Shoenberger Public Interest Law Foundation, and our work is to assist other nonprofits achieve our mission by helping them identify volunteers, how to define their donor profile, and engage in community outreach through programs such as Advocates for Change. Prior to creating my foundation, I served as the Commissioner of Consumer Services for the City of Chicago, as a Cook County State's Attorney, and as a faculty at Harold Washington College, and headed an immigration program for the Chicago Legal Clinic. Currently, in addition to doing legal work for organizations such as Chicago Volunteer Legal Services and doing legal consulting, I'm teaching a course in macroeconomics at Loyola's Arrupe College. As we dive into today's episode, we encourage you to join our conversation. Use the hashtag Advocates for Change on social media. Share your thoughts, ideas, and stories of change, things happening in your community. Together, we can use these voices, amplify them, and hopefully make a difference. So as I mentioned, my guest today is Hernan Prieto. He is the Immigration Program Manager for Irish Community Services and is a Justice Department accredited lay representative. I've worked with Hernan and Irish Community Services for many years. Welcome.
Thank you, Caroline.
So can you please talk to us a little bit about what Irish Community Services offers to the public, and then we'll talk about a particular program that you had.
Sure. Irish Community Services is a community-based organization. We are a nonprofit, and we provide a different array of services, from some social services to immigration services. Within the immigration services, we help legal permanent residents becoming citizens and DACA recipients to renew their applications, as well as other small immigration benefits that they can obtain.
And some of the social programs, before we dive into the immigration services and into a particular program, what kind of social services do you provide?
So we partnered with ISTER, the Illinois Coalition for Immigrants' Rights and Refugees, to provide access to public benefits. We help immigrants navigating the hard system of getting health coverage and also some public benefits such as TANF, SNAP, and food assistance.
So the immigrants come from all over the world?
All over the world, yes. We take any immigrant regardless of their country of origin.
Okay, and I was going to mention this later, but in addition to English, ¿cuáles son los otros idiomas? What are your other languages?
Yeah, we also provide services in Spanish. Hablamos español para todas aquellas personas que necesiten asistencia. Hablamos en español y tenemos nuestro personal es bilingüe.
Okay, so you have bilingual people who work there, and if I'm correct, you also speak French.
We do. We can provide services in French too as well.
Okay, and the people who you serve are primarily Irish or Irish descent, but you also service other people, if I'm not mistaken.
Right. Our organization started providing assistance to recent Irish immigrants who came here to the U.S. In the 90s. But then the services expanded to anyone. So nowadays we have a big cohort of Irish and Irish American living here in Illinois, but also we provide services to immigrants from many different countries.
A lot of people from Central and South America.
Mostly from Latin American countries.
And your program's dealing with seniors. If you can talk a little bit about your senior program.
Yes, we engage with seniors through different cultural programs, and we offer seniors meetings every other week in the Irish American Heritage Center and other weeks on the Gaelic Park, all the way south side Chicago. And the idea of our seniors group is to create a space for them to have conversations, also some cultural events, listening to music and narrating stories and other memory engagement programs.
So where on the north side is the Irish Heritage Center?
So we are located at the Irish American Heritage Center, which is in the northwest corner of the city of Chicago. We are at 4626 North Knox Avenue.
So to get there, you go on Wilson. But the Irish Heritage Center has a fabulous shop with Irish goods, but they have other services there. I think they have some recreational services there.
Right, the building is a big building. Used to be a public school back in the days, and nowadays is the home of many Irish cultural events. And we also have an auditorium for over 100 people to enjoy some shows. We have a pub that every Friday they play live music. It's a quite active and very lively place to be in.
So it's worth a visit.
Absolutely.
It's absolutely worth a
We
visit.
also have a gift shop there.
It's a great gift shop. That I can tell you, it's a great gift shop. Irish Community Services also offers programs dealing with youth. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Right. There's every week we offer playgroup. It's a moment for toddlers and their parents and guardians to come and stay surrounded with other peers and play, and also getting in touch with the Irish culture.
That's great. So in talking today, I think we wanted to really dive into the program dealing with people who want to become United States citizens. So if you can talk a little bit about the program and maybe can anyone become a U.S. citizen? If you marry a U.S. citizen, does that automatically make you a U.S. citizen? No, it doesn't. I can tell you that right now. But it's a common belief. So if you can talk a little bit about the program.
Right. So the New American Initiative, which is our program that we partner with the Illinois Coalition for Immigrants and Refugee Rights, it's a very comprehensive program that provides assistance on becoming citizen. Also, we provide practice and classes for the interview, because as you may know, Caroline,
Yes.
at the very end of the immigration process for citizenship, the applicant needs to attend to an interview. And in that interview, the applicant will be tested, their knowledge on civics and history. So we provide those classes to be prepared for the interview.
So basically, let's start at the beginning. To become a United States citizen, there's an exception, but in general, you have to be a lawful permanent resident. If you can just amplify that just a little bit.
So in general rules, we could say that most applicants, they need to be legal permanent resident, or what most people know, green card holders, for over 5 years. Once they meet that period of time holding their legal permanent residency, they can then apply for citizenship. There are some exceptions if you are married to an American citizen. That time, rather than being 5 years, is just 3 years.
And you have to have lived with the United States citizen for 3 years. So there is one exception. If you served in the armed forces and had an honorable discharge, you can apply directly to become a United States citizen. So you go through an application, and what kinds of questions do they ask in the application?
Well, as I always like to say, this is the very last opportunity that the government and the Civic and Immigration Services of the United States has a chance to ask questions about your past in the United States. They cover different questions to determine if you possess something that is called good moral character. So they will be asking questions about your criminal background, how you enter United States, questions about your family, questions about if you have been paying taxes for the last 5 years. So there is a very exhaustive questionnaire that the USCIS asks to the applicant.
So let's just briefly go over some of them. For example, if you have certain criminal arrests, you have to disclose them. What about people who actually have been to court and received a sentence of supervision? In Illinois, that's not a conviction. Is it a conviction under federal law?
Well, supervision, it is considered for immigration law, it is considered conviction. So that's why we always recommend to consult with an immigration professional before going and applying for yourself.
I think over the years we've both seen people who have decided they don't want to see an attorney, they don't want to contact a accredited lay representative with a long history of success and ethical work, and do it themselves, and that can often lead to trouble.
Absolutely. Our recommendation is always, even for the most simple case that you may consider, always consult first with an immigration specialist, somebody who is knowledgeable on immigration law.
And someone who is accredited or a licensed attorney. I've been hearing lately of people who call themselves paralegals going into some of the shelters, and a paralegal has, it's just tell you that they're practicing law without a license. To become an accredited lay representative, you had to jump through probably more hoops than a lawyer who wants to specialize in immigration.
Well, the law is very clear. Only 2 people can provide immigration advice: attorneys in good standing or immigration specialist, legal representative accredited by the Department of Justice of the United States. That's it. Any notarios públicos, they should not provide any assistance with immigration forms or give you any sort of immigration advice.
I think that is really important to get the message out. So let's get back to applying to become a United States citizen. So you need to go and get copies of your records. So what happens if you've had your record expunged? You have to go back to court, don't you?
Exactly. You need to ask for those records. We need to see, because USCIS, the United States Services for Immigration and Citizenship, they will need to see those records.
And they could probably see them
beforehand.
So you never want the government to know more than you do, and more than your accredited lay representative. So the process, I think, is rather cumbersome. You have to go to court to unseal the record. Then you have to go to court to get the record, get it certified, and then seal it again. Or if it's completely gone, then you need a letter from basically the clerk of the circuit court saying it's gone. So once you have those records, what other types of information do you need?
Well, most applicants, what they need to provide is the tax record for the last 5 years to see if there is any standing with IRS. Then you might need some biographical certificates, such as birth certificate from your children, marriage certificate, death certificate of your spouse if your spouse is deceased, and documents like that.
So for the income tax, there are people who basically prepare income taxes and they tell you, oh, add a couple dependents on it. No one will notice. Can that be a problem when you're applying to become a citizen?
Well, remember that we said that USCIS will check that you possess good moral character. And giving false information, producing what is called a misrepresentation, that might consider a false, a fraud. It might be considered a federal crime for immigration purposes. So that's why it's very important to not just to gather all the information together, also to have somebody who is an expert on the process that they can tell you if all the paperwork you have is right for you to apply at this moment.
So some of the issues I've seen in taxes are not only adding on dependents, and you really have to support the dependent 50%. And there are rules, if you send money to another country, there are rules about that. Not every country, even if you send your entire income, qualifies. There are rules. The other issue is if you file as head of household. If you file as head of household but you're married, or that can be a problem too.
Many times we see some mistakes, errors committed by persons who are preparing taxes, and they write on the applicant that this person is single when they are married. Perhaps they are not living together with their spouse for many years as today, but they check on the single status for taxes purposes. That could become a problem. But I don't want to scare people, but it's important for every future applicant to have the right advice before applying.
I think that's excellent advice, and I know that you carefully go through someone's tax returns, because again, you don't want the government to know something that you don't know, and the person, lawyer or accredited lay representative, you don't want them to know more than you. And there have been cases where people who have applied, we don't want to scare people, but there are certain little red flags that can go up that could really hurt your case. And what happens if you're denied for not having good moral character?
Well, it depends what are the basis of that denied. But sadly, one consequence of that, it could be that you end up being put in procedure for removal. So in basic English, it means to be deported.
So you could possibly be deported. For less serious ones, there could be a 5-year. You can't do anything for 5 years. So again, and I forget how much it costs now to apply to become a citizen.
Well, the processing fee right now for most applicants, it's $725, but I have some news. That processing fee might change in the future, and probably in the next couple months. We know that the processing fee will go up to around $1,000.
My goodness.
Per applicant.
Are there any waivers for this?
There are some waivers. If your household income falls under certain category, there are some waivers for you. But also, in our organization, we have some programs that can help applicants to pay for the processing fee.
Well, that's fabulous. That's fabulous. While we're still in the application phase, is there any employment issues that you might want to know about that might be, again, a red flag?
Well, you want to have a complete record of the employment records from the applicant within the last 5 years, and we need to see where this person has been working, what was the role, and the location of the work.
So I understand that even though marijuana, now the laws have been loosened up in the state of Illinois and other states, have they been loosened up in the federal area, and would that be a problem for someone who is involved in the business of selling, transporting, doing anything with marijuana?
Well, Caroline, as you know, as today, marijuana usage is a federal crime. Not every state have passed that law, so still being a federal crime, even though here in Illinois it is permissible. So what that means is we might need to have a very thorough check on criminal background to see if that might impact the possibility for an applicant to apply at this moment or not.
And also to make sure that you're not working in any capacity, even if you're driving with marijuana in the back of your truck or your car, well, that could be a problem too. So you get all the application, you get the pictures and the certificates, and you fill out, the application asks some very nasty questions, not only about loyalty to the United States, but have you been married to more than one woman at the same time, et cetera. And actually, I've had cases where people forgot to get divorces, so we have to get them a divorce. And then under Illinois law, once you remove the impediment, then the second marriage becomes legal. So it's submitted with the fee or the fee waiver, and then what happens?
And then what happened? Usually within the next couple weeks, you will receive a notification letter accepting the process. Then you will be receiving the schedule to get your fingerprints and picture taken. And after that, you will have the appointment for the interview.
And you mentioned earlier that to prepare you for the interview, there are classes that go over the questions that you're going to be asked. Some of the questions lawyers get wrong. One of my favorite is, when was the Constitution written? And most lawyers say 1789, which is when it was adopted, not written. It was written in 1787. But you have those classes through Irish Community Services. And then we go to the interview. What happens at the interview?
Just I want to mention that our classes are free of cost.
Important. Very, very important.
What happened at the interview? At the moment of the interview, the applicant will be asked some of those questions of civics and history, and also the officer who will be conducting the interview will review the different answers the applicant have provided for the application.
Is the interview in the English language?
The interview is in English language, but if the applicant is over a certain age and he has been living here for a certain number of years, they can get their interview in their own language with the help and assistance of an interpreter.
I think that's critically important. And how many, if you flunk you have to get, I think, now 6 out of 10 questions correct?
So the questionnaire that USCIS provides, it's a 100 questions questionnaire, and they also provide the answers. At the moment of the interview, the officer will select randomly 10 questions to be asked, and you have to have at least 6 correct.
So and do they tell you right away you made it, or do they not?
Most of the time, the officer will tell you right away that you passed the civics and history exam, and they will let you know days after the interview if your interview has been success and was approved.
And then you go to an oath ceremony, which is actually very moving to go to an oath ceremony.
And that's the end of the road for the immigrant, because on that day, after they swear in, they become citizens.
So with all the wonderful services that you charge, how much do you charge for your services?
For most applicants, we don't charge anything, and because we are part of the, as I said before, the Illinois Coalition for Immigrants and Refugee Rights. And if not, we charge $50 for the immigration legal fees.
So for $50 or zero, you can get all these wonderful preparations. So how does someone contact Irish Community Services?
Well, they can call to our office at the 773-282-8445 or write an email to info@irishchicago.org.
Can you please repeat that, just because we don't have that on the screen?
Sure. 773-282-8445 or send an email at info@irishchicago.org.
So thank you so much. Wonderful services, wonderful organizations. I want to thank everyone for watching the show. I've had the privilege of bringing wonderful stories of great services to people from grassroots movements, basically global initiatives, people who want to challenge the status quo and drive progress. They are the advocates for change. And I want to mention again, they are the advocates for change. Thank you, Hernan, and thank you for watching. Look forward to seeing you next month. Advocates for Change. Thank you very much.